Hi, I'm back. I'll be using this Bible for this week's Torah portion. Okay, and it's going to be it. This week's Torah portion is Leviticus chapter 6 to chapter 8.
And Jehovah went on to speak to Moses, saying, In case a soul sins in that he does behave unfaithfully toward Jehovah, and does deceive his associate about something in his charge, or a deposit in hand, or a robbery, or he does defraud his associate, or he does find something lost, and is actually deceptive about it, and does swear falsely over any of all the things that the man might do to sin by them, then it must occur that in case he sins and indeed becomes guilty, he must return the robbed thing which he has robbed, or the extorted thing which he has taken by fraud, or the thing in his charge which was put in his charge, or the thing lost that he has found, or anything at all over which he might swear falsely, and he must make compensation for it in its full amount, and he will add to it a fifth of it. To the one whose it is, he will give it on the day his guilt is proved. And as his guilt offering, he will bring to Jehovah a sound ram from the flock according to the estimated value, for a guilt offering to the priest. And the priest must make an atonement for him before Jehovah, and so it must be forgiven him regarding any of all the things that he might do resulting in guiltiness by it. And Jehovah continued to speak to Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his son, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering will be on the hearth upon the altar all night long until the morning, and the fire of the altar will be kindled in it. And the priest must clothe himself with his official dress of linen, and he will put the linen drawers on over his flesh. Then he must lift up the fatty ashes of the burnt offering that the fire regularly consumes upon the altar, and he must place them beside the altar. And he must strip off his garments and put on other garments, and he must take the fatty ashes out to a clean place outside the camp. And the fire on the altar will be kept burning on it. It must not go out. And the priest must burn wood on it morning by morning, and set the burnt offering in order over it, and he must make the fatty pieces of the communion sacrifices smoke over it. Fire will be kept constantly burning on the altar. It must not go out. Now this is the law of the grain offering. You sons of Aaron, present it before Jehovah in front of the altar. And one of them must lift up by his handful some of the fine flour of the grain offering, and some of its oil, and all the frankincense that is upon the grain offering. And he must make it smoke upon the altar as a restful odor for a remembrancer of it to Jehovah. And what is left of it, Aaron and his sons will eat. It will be eaten as unfermented cakes in a holy place. They will eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. It should not be baked with anything leavened. I have given it as their share out of my offerings made by fire. It is something most holy, like the sin offering, and like the guilt offering. Every male among the sons of Aaron will eat it. It is an allowance to time indefinite throughout your generations from Jehovah's offerings made by fire. Everything that may touch them will become holy. And Jehovah went on speaking to Moses, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, that they will present to Jehovah on the day of his being anointed. The tenth of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering constantly, half half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It will be made with oil upon a griddle. You will bring it well mixed. You will present the pastries of the grain offering in pieces as a restful odor to Jehovah. And the priest, the one anointed in place of him from among his sons, will make it. It is a regulation to time indefinite. As a whole offering, it will be made to smoke to Jehovah. And every grain offering of a priest should prove to be a whole offering. It must not be eaten. And Jehovah spoke further to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is regularly slaughtered, the sin offering will be slaughtered before Jehovah. It is a most holy thing. The priest who offers it for sin will eat it. In a holy place it will be eaten in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Everything that may touch its flesh will become holy. And when anyone spatters some of its blood upon the garment, you will wash what he spatters blood upon in a holy place. And the earthenware vessel in which it may be boiled is to be shattered. But if it was boiled in a copper vessel, then it must be scoured and rinsed with water. Every male among the priests will eat it. It is something most holy. However, no sin offering of which some of the blood will be brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place must be eaten. It is to be burned with fire. Chapter 7. And this is the law of the guilt offering. It is something most holy. In the place where they regularly slaughter the burnt offering, they will slaughter the guilt offering, and its blood one will sprinkle round about upon the altar. As for all its fat, he will present of it the fatty tail, and the fat that covers the intestines, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, the same as that upon the loins. As for the appendage upon the liver, he will remove it along with the kidneys. And the priest must make them smoke on the altar as an offering made by fire to Jehovah. It is a guilt offering. Every male among the priests will eat it. In a holy place it will be eaten. It is something most holy. Like the sin offering, so is the guilt offering. There is one law for them. The priest who will make atonement with it, his it will become. As for the priest who presents the burnt offering of any man, the skin of the burnt offering that he has presented to the priest will become his. And every grain offering that may be baked in the oven, and every one made in the deep fat kettle, and upon the griddle, belongs to the priest who presents it. It will become his. But every grain offering that is moistened with oil or dry will come to be for all of Aaron's sons, for the one the same as for the other. Now this is the law of the communion sacrifice that anyone will present to Jehovah. If he would present it in expression of thanksgiving, then he must present along with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unfermented ring-shaped cakes moistened with oil, and unfermented wafers smeared with oil, and well-mixed fine flour as ring-shaped cakes moistened with oil. Along with ring-shaped cakes of leavened bread, he will present his offering together with the thanksgiving sacrifice of his communion sacrifices. And out of it he must present one of each offering as a sacred portion to Jehovah. As for the priest who sprinkles the blood of the communion sacrifices, it will become his. And the flesh of the thanksgiving sacrifice of his communion sacrifices is to be eaten on the day of his offering. He must not save up any of it until morning. And if the sacrifice of his offering is a vow or a voluntary offering, it is to be eaten on the day of his presenting his sacrifice, and on the next day what is left of it also may be eaten. But what is left of the flesh of the sacrifice on the third day is to be burned with fire. However, if any of the flesh of his communion sacrifice should at all be eaten on the third day, the one presenting it will not be accepted with approval. It will not be put to his account. It will become a foul thing, and the the soul that eats some of it will answer for his error. And the flesh that may touch anything unclean is not to be eaten. It is to be burned with fire. As for the flesh, everybody clean may eat the flesh. And the soul who eats the flesh of the communion sacrifice, which is for Jehovah, while his uncleanness is upon him, that soul must be cut off from his people. And in case the soul touches anything unclean, the uncleanness of a man or an unclean beast or any unclean loathsome thing, and actually eats some of the flesh of the communion sacrifice, which is for Jehovah, that soul must be cut off from his people. And Jehovah continued to speak to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, You must not eat any fat of a bull or a young ram or a goat. Now the fat of a body already dead, and the fat of an animal torn to pieces may be used for anything else conceivable, but you must not eat it at all. For anyone eating fat from the beast from which he presents it as an offering made by fire to Jehovah, the soul that eats must be cut off from his people. And you must not eat any blood in any places where you dwell, whether that of fowl or that of beast. Any soul who eats any blood, that soul must be cut off from his people. And Jehovah went on to speak to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, He who presents his communion sacrifice to Jehovah will bring his offering to Jehovah from his communion sacrifice. His hands will bring as Jehovah's offerings made by fire the fat upon the breast. He will bring it with the breast to wave it to and fro as a wave offering before Jehovah. And the priest must make the fat smoke upon the altar, but the breast must become Aaron's and his sons. And you will give the right leg as a sacred portion to the priest from your communion sacrifices. That one of Aaron's sons who presents the blood of the communion sacrifices and the fat, the right leg will become his as a portion. For the breast of the wave offering and the leg of the sacred portion I do take from the sons of Israel from their communion sacrifices, and I shall give them to Aaron the priest and his sons, as a regulation to time indefinite from the sons of Israel. This was the priestly share of Aaron, and the priestly share of his sons from Jehovah's offerings made by fire, on the day that he presented them to act as priests to Jehovah, just as Jehovah had commanded to give it to them on the day of his anointing them from among the sons of Israel. It is a statute to time indefinite for their generations. This is the law concerning the burnt offering, the grain offering, and the sin offering, and the guilt offering, and the installation sacrifice, and the communion sacrifice, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses in Mount Sinai, in the day of his commanding the sons of Israel to present their offerings to Jehovah in the wilderness of Sinai. Chapter 8. And Jehovah proceeded to speak to Moses, saying, Take Aaron and his sons with him, and the garments, and the anointing oil, and the bull of the sin offering, and the 2 rams, and the basket of unfermented cakes, and make all the assembly congregate at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Moses did just as Jehovah had commanded him, and the assembly congregated at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Moses now said to the assembly, This is the thing that Jehovah has given command to do. So Moses brought Aaron and his sons near and washed them with water. After that he put the robe upon him, and girded him with the sash, and clothed him with the sleeveless coat, and put the ephod upon him, and girded him with the girdle of the ephod, and bound it closely to him with it. Next he placed the breastpiece upon him, and put in the breastpiece the Urim and the Thummim. Then he placed the turban upon his head, and placed upon the turban at the forefront of it the shining plate of gold, the holy sign of dedication, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. Moses now took the anointing oil, and anointed the tabernacle, and all that was in it, and sanctified them. After that, he spattered some of it 7 times upon the altar, and anointed the altar and all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, so as to sanctify them. Finally, he poured some of the anointing oil upon Aaron's head, and anointed him so as to sanctify him. Moses then brought Aaron's sons near, and clothed them with robes, and girded them with sashes, and wrapped the headgear upon them, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. Then he led up the bull of the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the head of the bull of the sin offering. And Moses proceeded to slaughter it, and take the blood, and put it with his finger upon the horns of the altar round about, and purify the altar from sin. But the rest of the blood he poured at the base of the altar, that he might sanctify it, to make atonement upon it. After that, he took all the fat that was upon the intestines, and the appendage of the liver, and the 2 kidneys and their fat, and Moses made them smoke upon the altar. And he had the bull and its skin and its flesh and its dung burned with fire outside the camp, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. He now brought the ram of the burnt offering near, and Aaron and his sons then laid their hands upon the head of the ram. After that Moses slaughtered it, and sprinkled the blood round about upon the altar. And he cut up the ram into its pieces, and Moses proceeded to make the head and the pieces and the suet smoke. And the intestines and the shanks he washed with water, and Moses then made the entire ram smoke upon the altar. It was a burnt offering for a restful odor. It was an offering made by fire to Jehovah, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. Then he brought the second ram, the ram of the installation, near, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the ram's head. After that Moses slaughtered it, and took some of its blood, and put it upon the lobe of Aaron's right ear, and upon the thumb of his right hand, and upon the big toe of his right foot. Next Moses brought Aaron's sons near, and put some of the blood upon the lobe of their right ear, and upon the thumb of their right hand, and upon the big toe of their right foot. But Moses sprinkled the rest of the blood round about upon the altar. Then he took the fat, and the fat tail, and all the fat that was upon the intestines, and the appendage of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and their fat, and the right leg. And out of the basket of unfermented cakes that was before Jehovah, he took 1 unfermented ring-shaped cake, and 1 ring-shaped cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer. He then placed them upon the fatty pieces and the right leg. After that he put all of them upon the palms of Aaron, and the palms of his sons, and began to wave them to and fro as a wave offering before Jehovah. Then Moses took them off their palms and made them smoke upon the altar on top of the burnt offering. They were an installation sacrifice for a restful odor. It was an offering made by fire to Jehovah. And Moses proceeded to take the breast and to wave it to and fro as a wave offering before Jehovah. From the installation ram it became the portion for Moses, just as Jehovah had commanded Moses. After that Moses took some of the anointing oil, and some of the blood that was upon the altar, and spattered it upon Aaron, and his garments, and upon his sons, and the garments of his sons with him. Thus he sanctified Aaron, and his garments, and his sons, and the garments of his sons with him. Then Moses said to Aaron and his sons, Boil the flesh at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and there is where you will eat it, and the bread that is in the installation basket, just as I was given the command, saying, Aaron and his sons will eat it. And what is left over of the flesh and the bread, you will burn with fire. And you must not go out from the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days, until the day of fulfilling the days of your installation, because it will take 7 days to fill your hand with power. Just as it has been done this day, Jehovah has commanded to be done so as to make atonement for you. And you will stay at the entrance of the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days, and you must keep the obligatory watch of Jehovah, that you may not die. For so I have been commanded. And Aaron and his sons proceeded to do all the things that Jehovah had commanded by means of Moses. Chapter 9.
Okay, that's all. Bye.